All right, let's talk about it. Electronic drums in the church environment. I haven't talked about drums as much on this channel. I have several videos in the future that will be dealing with drums more specifically, but my main instrument is actually drumming. That's what my bachelor's degree is in drum performance. It was the first instrument I ever picked up, started taking lessons at the age of 3, and I feel like I'm suited to talk about this topic because I've also been forced to use electronic drums in the worship center for years. When I was in high school, there was an electronic kit in the sanctuary because the people just wanted electronic drums. They wanted that lower volume. And the one sticking point, there's really two sticking points for me with electronic drums. Number one, they never turn the volume of the electronic drums up loud enough to really even hear it in the mix. And so what you really hear is the bump, bump, bump of those pads all the time. Two, and the biggest sticking point for me, was the tone and the cymbals. You cannot get dynamics out of the drums, and you can't do any type of cymbal work on electronic cymbals. They just don't, and companies have tried. I know it, and I know that they're better than they used to be. But still, I can't get detailed sounds out of those cymbals. And I do 50% of my work on the drum kit is on cymbals. And a lot of times in worship, it's really light touches on those rides and those crashes. We're not there yet. I had high hopes for the DWE kit. I was shocked at how amazing that kit was. I do think the drums, the shell packs of those kits, I think that's the closest we've ever gotten. There were a lot of problems with that kit as well. Not the least of which was the fact that you had to have a laptop and someone who could sit there and work that laptop. Again, you're going to run into situations where somebody might not be able to open that laptop and pull up all of the commands to get the kit up and running. But again, people are already online complaining about those cymbals. A good friend of mine, Kevin Boyer, is a worship leader in Alabama, well-known worship leader in the state of Alabama, and he has played guitar for me for many years. His wife, Jordan, is an amazing vocalist. He recently contacted me talking about he's finally getting rid of the electric drums.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Kevin Boyer, and I'm the worship pastor at First Baptist Church in Alexander City, Alabama. A little town kind of between Birmingham and Auburn. We're on Lake Martin. This kind of started when I texted Marc and said, hey, can you give me maybe your top three recommendations for snares for worship drums? And Marc said, Black Beauty, Black Beauty, Black Beauty. And then Marc texted back a little later. He's like, hey, will you maybe be interested in sending me your thoughts on electronic drums? So here we are. You can see what's going on behind us. Just last night, the team from Joplin Enclosures out of Texas came and they installed our tank. We are making the move from electronic drums to acoustic drums. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about pros and cons. Some of these are obvious. If you've had any experience or been around electronic drums at all, you kind of are aware of the cons right off the top. You know, if you are a drummer and you use acoustic drums. Some of the pros to start off with. You really have a great thing going on with electronic drums for volume. That's the big thing. Pastors who are really trying to keep everybody happy love electronic drums because you're going to be able to say turn it down and it gets turned down. They are great for practicing. You know, you can put your headphones in and go to town. There's a lot of customization. You can change sounds and tones and patches really quick. You can, depending on your setup, it can get really detailed and higher quality. The fact that you don't have any microphones to worry about is really nice. You know, Another thing that's really cool is having MIDI capability, because then you can do like we did. I wanted to level up the sound of our electronic drums. When I first came, they were just running a mono mix to the house, but we also live stream. And I said, okay, well, let me send a stereo mix to the production room. And that kind of led me down this path of, is there anything better that we can do? So we tapped into MainStage. We use a MacBook Air M1, 8 gigs of RAM to run playback from multi-tracks for our stems. And I would have I would have MainStage loaded up as well with some killer patches. And you got a little mixer on the screen, graphical interface. It's just much more user-friendly than the Roland Brain, even though the Roland Brains, they're pretty good for what they are. Still, moving towards the cons, the sound is just, I've yet to hear electronic drums that I can say those are not electronic drums. Those are real drums. I'm looking at the top of the line Rolands the other day. You're going to spend, depending on your configuration, you're looking at like $8,000 for their kit that looks like an acoustic kit, but it's electronic. And you're still going to have that rubber plat on the cymbals and stuff. I've yet to meet a drummer who enjoys playing an electronic kit. I know a lot of drummers who will humbly use one from a place of, I'm dying to self here. I'm dying inside. I'm dying to self. I'm going to play these electronic drums because I want to use my gifts, bring them to the table, and I don't want to be a distraction, and I want to help, be a part of, I want to be a part of the team. But I don't know a drummer that really enjoys playing electronic drums. You got some really good kits out there that are E-kits. It doesn't feel like the real thing, doesn't sound like the real thing. They're getting better. In a room like this, our congregation, we have maybe 300 to 400 on a Sunday. We're kind of a small, mid-size room. And our room is really live. We have acoustic treatments on the walls. You may see some behind me on the walls there, some acoustic panels and stuff. Even with that, it's just really a very live room. We have slate tile floors and plaster ceiling and stuff like that. Sanctuary built in the 60s. It's just finished a couple years ago with a renovation. Really great to have those acoustic panels, but it's still, you can hear the rubber plat over the kit in the mix. You got to find the happy medium. I think that this is for us going to be a happy medium. You're looking at cost. Yes, cost is going to be there for an enclosure. That's just something you got to weigh out. I lean much towards real kit. Giving the drummer a real instrument to play. My camera right now is perched on top of an acoustic. It's a baby grand. So we have a real piano for the pianists to play. Our guitarists are playing real guitars. We said we want to do the same for our drummers and give them the best instrument that they can play. Maybe you're kind of on the fence, or maybe you don't have any other option. It isn't about throwing money at a situation. I get that. Ministry is one of those things where you got to be frugal sometimes. And we saved up for a while to get this one behind us, this tank. And that's just kind of where we are. So
it just so happens that a few weeks ago, Alan Goodwin was leading worship with me. He played organ. And while I had him, that conversation with Kevin was on my mind.
The benefit of electric drums, obviously, is that they are way quieter than acoustic drums. Another benefit that people don't often look at as the first benefit, but I would argue is equally important, is that you can craft the sound of them very easily because there is nothing to tune, there's nothing to choose your wood type, choose your head type. You can just put samples on, you can put sounds on, make them sound pretty produced and professional with just a few knob changes. The glaring issue with them is that they feel nothing like real drums. The problem with drums compared to something like piano or guitar or anything else we would model pieces of is that the pieces we're modeling move a lot more than the pieces we model on piano and guitar. Piano and guitar, we don't model the actual movement of the keys or the sustain pedal. Those are real keys that function the same way as a real piano does. The part we're modeling is the sound only. You're not changing the feel of the instrument. Drums are a little bit different of a scenario because you're trying to model not only the sound of it, but the feel of it. I would say a technology that's going to take a lot more work to model well. To me, it maybe fixes one problem, but creates a problem that's bigger than the one it fixed. In my opinion, it's better to embrace your limitations. If you just can't have acoustic drums in a space, that's okay. Embrace your limitations. Don't try to make it something it's not if your space is too small or if your people just don't like it. It's too much of a distraction. Just don't do it. Use a parish kit, which is a smaller, more acoustic-oriented acoustic drum set, so acoustic set-oriented acoustic drum set, a lot quieter. They're made a certain way to sound quieter. Or go to cajon and something totally different. A cajon, a djembe, something like that that's still percussive, accomplishes that function. Or you can go the modern route, which would be an SPD SX pad. You see acoustic sets done today that aren't cajon based, but SPD SX sample based that have not actual drum sounds, but claps and noises and electronic sounds. So you could do a hybrid of an SPD SX pad and a cajon maybe. It'd be very quiet. It wouldn't try to be a drum set, and it would probably tick all those boxes that you're trying to tick.
So my final thoughts, honestly, because the cymbals are such an important part of the sound when it comes to worship music, I just can't get past that handicap on the electronic drums side of things. And so I continue to play acoustic drums. We actually use a hybrid kit at DeSoto Hills in the main worship center, and straight acoustic drums in our second venue. And then we have a parish drum kit in the third venue that we use. Get a drummer who can control the sound, play lighter, play lighter, play lighter, smaller sticks, broomstick brushes, big, large, dark cymbals. I think that's the best road you can take when you're in the worship environment for getting the best tones and the best overall sound. And it's gonna take a drummer who has self-control when it comes to the volume. It just is. That's my final take for now on the electronic drums side of things. I have high hopes. DW did an amazing job on that kit. They just didn't get it over the finish line, and that's the honest truth. If you want that kit, if you want to take a look at that kit, Sweetwater offers, I saw the kit was listed for $11,000. $11,000 can buy a whole lot of solutions for making your drums softer in the worship environment. You can get a decent shield for well under $1,000. If you want one of the really fancy shields, you can spend a couple of $1,000s and still come out way ahead of the DWE kit. I think DW is on the right track, and I think they'll eventually get it over the finish line, but it's going to take some amazing work on the cymbals. And I know some of you are watching this video and you're like, Mark, they have great rubber cymbals, separate cymbal packs that you can buy, separate cymbal solutions that you can buy. And yes, they exist. They're expensive, and they're still not as good as the real thing. You still can't do quite the detailed work on those rubber pads and get quite the dynamic range that you can out of real cymbals. You just can't. And trust me, I have researched it for hours and hours and hours. I have physically played some of those kits. It's not the same thing. It's just not the same thing. But I think we're going to get there. I have high hopes. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. Like the video. Can't wait to see you on the next one.